This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 1038, recorded on Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. What does the bin chicken say? Anybody? I mean, somebody's going to know. Hey, everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your head with wolf tools, nightmare juice, and bin chickens. Been there. But first, thanks to our amazing Patreon sponsors for their generous support of TWIS. You can become a part of the Patreon community at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. With each human passing, our old ways disappear. But bit by bit, our culture moves toward the new. Youth celebrate progress. The old shake their heads at memories we forgot. And yet one day, we too will pass. Will anyone wonder at what is lost? Not as long as we're discussing This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science. What's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science.
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. Blair's back.
Hey.
Yay. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm looking forward to a wonderful show filled with conversation and great news tonight. What do we have on the show? I've got tons of stories about artificial intelligence, aka LLMs, brains, neuroscience, a big question, ethically speaking, and the bin chicken. What's in the animal corner, Blair?
Oh my goodness. Well, not bin chickens. Perhaps American bin chickens, seagulls. I also have woodpeckers and wolves and bees.
Ooh. I like bees. Yeah.
You won't like these ones.
Oh, no. Well, great. Thanks for that. Bees you don't like. Coming up at 11. No, hopefully before then.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. If you're just sitting down to listen to the show right now, never done it before, make sure at this very moment in time that you are subscribed to This Week in Science. You can find us on all podcast players. Well, at least, most of the really good ones, I think. I can't say for sure we're on all of them, but we try really hard to be
there's
all the
probably
places.
Some they invented yesterday that we don't even know about.
I know. Yeah, there's so hard to keep up sometimes. But we are also live streaming Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time-ish, a little bit after usually we get started. There's parental duties involved. But that's on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And those videos are available after the fact for you to watch if that's what you like to do. But the podcasts, we're out there. It's edited. It's wonderful. And you can find show notes, information about the stories, other fun information at twis.org, our website, where you can find links to our Patreon and our Zazzle store as well. You ready for the science, Blair?
Yes, hit me.
Whoosh. Okay, I'm going to jump in really fast with 3 quick headlines off the top. So first story tonight is that the biobank, the UK biobank, has new data in it. This is hot off the presses. This is coming out in the UK Thursday, right now, today, November 19th. They finally released the final set of data on 250 metabolites in 500,000 volunteers. So they've been measuring what is called the metabolome. These metabolites are created when our metabolism is working. So when we're alive, if you're respiring, there's respiration happening, then there is oxygen getting into your body, and that oxygen and other stuff, molecules from food, etc., they're all being used to give you energy, to build new tissues, to fight invaders. Metabolism is essential. And when it goes awry and you have changes in your metabolome, if certain metabolic signals change, it can indicate early aging. It can indicate disease. It can indicate all sorts of things. And these metabolites can be found in the blood. So it can be as easy as a blood draw or a drop of blood to be able to see what's going on. This is including sugars, fats, amino acids. And now this data is available to UK Biobank approved researchers around the world.
How many people did you say? 500,000?
500,000 people, 500,000 people.
So this is really to establish a baseline, right? To establish some normal ranges.
Yeah.
So that then if they measure the metabolome of me, if I'm sick, if I'm not feeling well, then they can say like, oh, these following measures are not in the normal range for these 500,000 people. So that's huge. What did they find? Was it like super variable? Was it super consistent?
So this data has been, they've been collecting it for many years and releasing it in different batches of information since 2021. And some data has already led to discovery. So at this point in time, this is just, they've done the assessment, right? It is not actually, this particular release is for researchers to go in and look at and to ask questions and see if they can figure anything out.
Got it.
So these are simply like 50,000 hours of monitoring the blood of 500,000 people to be able to get 250 molecules, data signals over that time. And the researchers now can look at this data set is really what's happening. But historically, what they've been able to see is that a blood test can reflect an individual's risk of developing diseases like type 2 diabetes. There are ways of predicting and preventing future heart disease based on early assessment of these metabolites. And in that particular study, they identified thousands of people in the UK over 10 years who would benefit substantially from earlier treatment. Also, they were able to understand the metabolism and the gut microbiome to increase risk of depression, and also to give an indication of biological clocks, metabolomic clocks, so how biological age can differ from chronological age. And a lot of this has to do, poor diet, because the metabolome is really indicative of a point in time, what your body is doing as it's working, right? When you look at a factory, a manufacturing plant, right? It would be like measuring the gases that come out of that manufacturing plant. So what are the things that are coming out in your blood from just existing? Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? That you're a dirty factory or a factory? I don't know.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I didn't mean to use sensationalistic language.
No, but you're right. Like, that is ultimately the question is like, is your body doing what it's supposed to be doing, or is something awry?
Yeah.
Are we expelling things we're not supposed to expel? Are we burning things incompletely? Like, what is...
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
Goodness. Well, that's great. I mean, like, so that's really the question that I want to know is exactly what I asked. Like, can we use this data to establish a normal range to measure somebody who's not feeling well against?
Right. So if you can use genomics or genetics and metabolomics, then hopefully together the combination of genetic predilections and what's happening in the metabolome, you can look at the risk of disease. If you know, say in my family, I have a higher risk of multiple sclerosis. But if I could measure certain metabolic, products from just living and how those correlate to my genetic predisposition, if something changed in a particular way, could that lead to,
right?
Oh, oopsie, stop drinking wine, Kiki. No.
So and you said this was from somewhere in Europe. Is that right? Western Europe?
Yeah, so this is the UK Biobank, and these volunteers, they were the information was gathered by a group called Nightingale Health, and the individuals are UK citizens. They're UK Biobank participants, and yeah, most of the individuals are UK.
Yeah, you get what I'm getting at here.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So it's basically Western European. Yeah, but who knows who's volunteering? That's the question of who's volunteering and everything.
Yes, because you want to. It's the thing about Western Europe. Genetic variation not high. Let's be real. So I think that's, this is a cool initial kind of look at this, but I'd want. I'd want like a much more globally representative sample before like true baselines are established, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. But the fun thing, I'm going to say interesting, but fun thing that they're doing is this is a living or a growing data set. They're not, saying this is it, we're done. But the data that they are collecting, they so far have the world's largest set of whole genome sequencing data, imaging data from 100,000 participants, protein biomarkers from 54,000 participants. Since 2012, we have scientists from around the world using all of this data to look at risks, preventions, treatments, hopeful cures. And so we have, so far, there have been more than 18,000 peer-reviewed scientific papers since 2012 published as a result of this data.
18,000.
18,000 scientific studies.
I think in 13 years, that's too many.
You think?
That's more than 1,000 a year. It's like, guys, chill.
Or do a bunch of studies, but what'd you find?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you going with this? Yeah, I mean, the winnowing down to actually get to the point of application and making a difference in personalized medicine and people's day-to-day lives, that's when it really matters.
Yeah.
I love you. Guys, chill.
It's true. Like that sounds like talk about factories. You're a paper factory now. That's not helping anything. That's like you're releasing a paper to say that you're going to be releasing a paper, and then you release that paper and say, we'll have more updates for you in the next paper.
Learn more this week in science in our next This Week in Science.
Yeah.
That's all about This Week in Science. Which week is this week? It's This Week in Science. Okay. In other quick news, we've got Blue Origin's nailing their landing with the New Glenn launch vehicle. The landing booster landed successfully. The first time they tried to land it on their landing pad in the ocean, things went awry, landed kind of, and then it blew up. But this time around, second try, we have Blue Origin nailing the landing on their launch pad named Jacqueline. So,
you said nailing the landing on Jacqueline.
Yep, I did.
I don't like that.
Sorry.
Bezos, no. That feels Incorrect.
I said that. He didn't say that.
No, but you know that's why he named the landing pad that.
I'm not in charge. I just report the news.
Okay. Proceed.
So everyone this week is talking about, ooh, surprise, surprise, the slow mover, Blue Origin, is making strides. And all of a sudden, we should be looking at Blue Origin when we all knew that Blue Origin was just taking the slower approach to get to the same goals. Next goal is to take a landing vehicle to the moon, which will be very exciting.
That's the next goal?
Yeah.
It feels like they're skipping some steps.
No, they landed. They're good. Let's keep going.
Okay.
But their goal also is similar to SpaceX in having reusable landing booster or launch boosters so that eventually it'll bring down the cost of our space travel. And Blue Origin is also very, very focused on developing these vehicles that will get us to the moon, back to the moon, that will be taking us to the new space station, whatever it is, that will be taking us to Mars, maybe. So the goal is to get off planet, serve commercial and government passengers, customers, eventually have humans go into the moon. And I think it's exciting to see the different strategies that SpaceX and Blue Origin have attempted. There's others still on the board. Space is big, so I think there's room for competition.
So, Kiki, I have a question for you that I should know the answer to.
Should you?
What is the...
Is this a math question?
No.
Okay, good.
It is really a globo-political question. What is the jurisdiction of the moon?
It is international or intergalactic.
Right. According to whom? The United Nations? Who?
Yeah. So there are United Nations treaties. There are agreements related to space, planets, moons, etc.
Okay. We're not looking at manifest destiny on the moon, right? We're not looking at like staking claims on the moon.
It's gonna be like Antarctica, I think.
Okay.
Where it's going to be, there's going to be collaboration, but when you look at Antarctica, many countries have different bases in different locations.
But that was deemed acceptable by like an international panel, basically. They were like, yes, you may build this here.
Yeah.
So that is how that would proceed.
Yep.
Okay.
We think, but as Kevin Reardon is bringing up, there is no global entity for enforcement.
So that's the thing. That's where my mind went, is like, being drafted to the moon war, are you like on the Musk army or the Bezos army? Like,
have you seen For All Mankind?
No.
Oh, just if you're asking these questions, I think For All Mankind, there's a bit of soap opera-ish kind of, the lives of astronauts and whatever, but it is an alternative. It's an alternate history. And
I see.
The story that it tells hits so many cultural issues. It's, and some things are very, very close to reality and other things are super far off, but you can see the way that people and power dynamics work. And the script is, for the large part, I think, it's an amazing representation of, our trip into space. And so with all the human foibles and everything. So, yeah,
I
recommend it.
I have one other perhaps very silly question, but maybe it's a legitimate question. I don't know. We're doing it. These headlines that you were going to bring, I'm bringing things so tangential. It's like,
I know, my headlines are now bigger than headlines.
Justin's not here, so I'm providing the tangents. Here we go. If you bring enough foreign material to the moon and you start building bases on the moon, and you're essentially changing the mass of the moon. Is that going to impact the tides?
So I think the reality is that the majority of materials that are on the moon are going to stay on the moon.
Okay.
That we're not going to be mining too much stuff on the moon, maybe hydrogen-3.
I feel like we're going to bring stuff, though, right? If we're going to build.
But that's going to be a small percentage of the total mass of the moon. So the idea is that the amount that we take to the moon is minuscule in comparison to the actual mass of the moon. The issue would be, like, say, with asteroids and comets, the goal is to mine them, right? That we could potentially use these interstellar comets, but solar system asteroids to be able to get materials and bring them back to Earth. Hopefully we wouldn't do too much of that with the moon, even though the moon may have some rare or very valuable resources that we could bring back, because it's the closest and most consistent thing that we could mine.
Okay. So on the other end, so you don't think we're going to bring too much, but we might take away too much, which would alter the tides.
Yes, if we took, but it would take a long time.
Yeah,
but, you know, if we think about it, this is the kind of question that's important, because once upon a time, people didn't think that we could even impact the environment on the Earth, that the Earth was so big that we were just here and we weren't, you know, oh, we could build a dam, but that doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Sorry, had to. But now we know human impacts. And what we've done is that we've changed climate, which has changed weather, which has changed all sorts of aspects of ecosystems. And, you know, we impact these things. Lon Koenig is saying the moon is already moving away. That's a natural aspect of our relationship with the moon. But if we were to, I mean, it would bias the relationship more if we were to take stuff and bring it back to the Earth too much. There's here in the Willamette River in Portland, there's a place that we cross over. It's called Ross Island, and there's a company there that's like a gravel company, and they've been digging stuff out forever. And I thought that naturally it was an island. Ross Island Bridge, that was an island. It didn't used to be. They made it an island because they took all of the material and they put it other places. This is great gravel. So you do that to the moon. I mean, just think, it happens over time. Suddenly you're having to, are we going to repatriate materials to the moon to make sure that we don't lose it faster? Yeah. How are we going to...
Send the garbage over.
But then are we also balancing it out evenly with what we're putting there? And so many of the resources on the moon and the way that we're thinking about the moon is that the moon is going to be a launch pad for going, you know, for going to asteroids, for going to other planets, that it's going to be a base of operations for some really interesting stuff. You know, and maybe for commercial interests, it becomes a hub. And if we're doing all of that there, the oxygen, the the helium-3, the, you know, resources that are on the moon, those stay on the moon, recycled and used sustainably. And hopefully the moon will help us become a more sustainable species. Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm bringing it back to Earth, you know.
Sure. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what comes of the Moon Wars.
Yeah. And in the meantime, there's some pretty pictures that have been released by NASA of the 3I Atlas comet, the interstellar interloper that everybody loves and wants to think that it's aliens or a spaceship or, you know, whatever else. But it's not. It's just a interstellar bit of stuff. And it's just wonderful that NASA is
Oh, I see. It looks like a saucer.
bringing these images to us so that we can see them. Yeah, so I'm going to share some of the images here. From a distance, from Mars, it passed by Mars at 19 million miles, and it was fuzzy and like a single bike headlight in the fog. Then you have the distribution of elements, hydrogen, how it fits within what we see as interplanetary, Mars, the hydrogen source of these elements, and the spectrometry of that. MAVEN spectrograph distinguished the comet's hydrogen from interplanetary and Martian hydrogen, that by separating each source by their speed, which is really interesting. So the comet, it's just confined in its own kind of thing. The NASA Perseverance mission also got a picture. It's a smudge. That's great. 18.6 million miles away. We've got some really neat images from NASA, the NASA Stereo mission. We've got a bunch of fuzzy, noisy stuff, and it's a kind of bright, fuzzy orb in the middle that you go, ooh, what is that? Is it an intersolar system pimple? I have no idea. We have other images of how it's moving through the sky. We've got it moving over a couple of days. Again, little bright dot and a smudge. But if you are interested in looking at those images, NASA has a lot and wants to share them with you so that you know that it's just an interstellar interloper. It's not aliens.
It's never aliens.
Yeah. I've warmed up. Thanks for letting me warm up. I got the audience warmed up for you. So, what do you want to talk about?
Hey, have you ever screamed at a seagull?
I have.
Okay. Did it help?
Me or the seagull?
Did it make the seagull leave?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Great.
No.
This week, a study out of University of Exeter showed that shouting at seagulls make them more likely to leave your food alone.
But they don't
Now,
leave.
The reason I asked you that question, Kiki, is that, as everyone knows, I've worked in zoos and aquariums.
And you've shouted at seagulls?
For 20 years. Yes.
In the Bay Area, where there's lots
in the Bay Area,
of gulls.
lots of seagulls. I also worked, the aquarium I worked at was on Pier 39, Seagull Central. Okay. I have a lot of experience with seagulls, and seagulls stealing food directly out of my hands. Seagulls knocking down toddlers to steal their French fries. Seagulls not caring.
I've told you about the gull that decided, because I was picnicking on the beach in my bare feet, that it thought my toe was food. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
We've told that story.
Screaming at that seagull certainly didn't help. No.
No. It wanted my toe.
So I'm just going to give it away. I think this research is bunk, but let's get into it. They tested a total of 61 gulls across 9 seaside towns in Cornwall. So that's strike one. Just some sleepy seaside towns in Cornwall. Half of the gulls exposed to a shouting voice flew away within a minute. Do you understand what a minute of shouting is?
That's a lot. Is it just shouting, or is it shouting and arm waving and aggressing? Because, what does shouting mean?
And it was only half of them. So I don't know if that's significant enough to say that seagulls leave if you shout at them. That sounds like a coin flip to me. I'm really having trouble with the statistics here. 15% of the gulls exposed to a just normal speaking male voice flew away. The rest walked away from the food, but they still sensed danger. 70% of the gulls exposed to a robin song stayed at the food.
Well,
yeah. So,
but
also,
this is just I'm just to clarify, because in the picture they have a figure that it's a speaker.
It's a
So
speaker.
it's not a person. It's just sound.
Yes. Now, here's more issues with this study. They recorded 5 male volunteers. They had them uttering the same phrase in a calm speaking voice and then separately in a shouting voice. They adjusted them to the same volume. So it had nothing to do with volume. It was all about the acoustic properties and the tone of the voice. And so they would assume that the shouting is scary because it's loud, but in this case, they matched the volume of speaking. So it was just the way the words were being said. And so their conclusion from this study is that gulls pay attention to the way we say things, which we don't think has been seen before in any wild species, says one of the researchers. Bunk. Also bunk.
Bunk, I tell you.
They're saying only domesticated species like dogs, pigs, and horses have shown this response, which I worked in the zoo. Anecdotally, I know that animals care if you yell.
Yeah.
For sure. They know what it means. They can tell based on, your body language and the tone.
But this is taking away the body language. It is just tone, right?
But if you're trying to make a quality judgment on whether wild animals have ever paid attention to shouting or not, they definitely have. They definitely have. That's absolutely ridiculous. If you didn't find research about that, it's because there isn't research yet about it. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. This is okay. Here's a pet peeve I have with research studies: is that sometimes they will say, this is the first time this has ever been observed.
Yes.
Now, what they need to say is this is the first time this has ever been observed and recorded and published. That is a very different quality than saying no one has ever seen this before. No, Jim down the street has seen this before. What are you talking about? Ask a kid. You don't...
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's just, it gets me a little frustrated sometimes because I feel like because there's this desire to speak scientifically and to say that this has not been measured before, it turns into this. It hasn't been measured, so it's not happening, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
So for one,
fair.
Obviously animals can tell if you're yelling and react to it. For two, seagulls don't. They don't care. The study they need to be doing instead of domestic versus wild is urbanized versus not. Is city seagulls in San Francisco versus seaside seagulls in Cornwall. That is the research that needs to happen. Also, not just male voices, guys. What are you doing? Only male voices? Why'd you do that?
Uh-huh.
You tried to reduce a variable, but really, you can't draw any conclusions based on that. All you can say is that half of these seagulls responded to these particular recordings. That's the conclusion that you have.
So, two observations and questions based on this so far. So, just the difference between, there were fewer seagulls hanging around anytime there was a sound of a human voice, right? Speaking or shouting, it was fewer seagulls stuck around than if a robin were singing. What does this mean about what they know of the context of the bird, understanding humans in the environment versus robins in the environment? Second, there's no difference between shouting or speaking, but is there, we talk about Americans going to other countries and shouting on their cell phones all the time or shouting at their kids. And I'm just wondering if there's just a common, do people in Cornwall just shout all the time? Is that speaking as well? I don't know this.
Great point.
And if people are speaking loudly or shouting, or if you're sitting in a cafe trying to eat your lunch and there are people talking in a way that is for attention, don't you want to put in earplugs or take your lunch and leave?
Right. So that's another really good point is how are you measuring speaking?
Yeah.
Because the way that I speak to somebody that I'm upset with versus the way I speak to a group of people versus the way I speak to someone who's having a really hard day is three very different kinds of speaking, but that's all speaking. None of that is shouting. So like,
you're so good, Blair. I mean, if someone's having a bad day, I'm like, stop it. No, sorry.
well, now you're shouting.
Yeah.
But and also it depends on who's having a bad day. Is it someone I care about and respect, or is it someone that really bothers me? Anyway, yes, so I think that that's the other piece of this, is that they're using something that's extremely dynamic, which is the human voice, and they used only a few subjects, all male. They like, yeah, they didn't qualify what kind of speaking they were doing,
which is it's very important. What is that?
Like put a puppy in their lap and then have them read it, right? Like so that they're nice and calm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels like an insane study. I read this and I was like, this is nothing. Sorry, guys. Sorry, University of Exeter. This is nothing.
So says Blair. This is nothing.
I don't know.
Do
it
more.
These are one of these things that I'm like, how'd you pass peer review? This is nothing. I don't know. I don't get it.
Sometimes a thing has to be published for more things to be published, for questions to be asked that have never been asked before. And if we are trying to figure out exactly how humans are interacting with animals, animals interacting with humans, vice versa, in the environment. And I had a study that I think I'm going to be, I think I brought it for this week, but it's related to urbanism, right? So it's the question of what do we understand about animals in urban environments, because historically we just ignored it, right? And it's just been this kind of like, oh, recently over the last 20 years, do city birds change how loudly they shout their songs and calls? Yeah, they do. They have to be louder. Just like people in cities have to be louder. Yeah. So it's all very, it's fascinating, the science and the stuff that you're like, what are you doing? And in this study, what they've done is they have gotten away from the body language of humans to just focus on the acoustic elements. But I don't know if they actually have, I don't know the study, so I don't know if they've really isolated the acoustic elements of import.
Well, and I wouldn't even call this a well-done study because, like I said, from my experience, city seagulls don't care if you yell at them. So it actually disproves what they're trying to say here. So you have this huge variable, which is this specific subset of seagull.
Yeah.
So you can't extrapolate that to anything. Like, later on in the article, one of the researchers commented like, very rarely will a seagull steal food directly from a human.
What?
Like, I guess
they are
Cornwall
big
seagulls. Your Cornwall seagulls are like really polite, I guess. Cheerio, can I have a French fry? No? All right, jolly good day. Like, no.
One tried to eat my toe.
Yes. Yes.
This is a San Francisco seagull, y'all.
Yes. I told you they knock over toddlers.
Yes. They're big pigeons.
It's a very, not my experience, I'll tell you what. Anyway.
I think it's lovely. Thank you for that. So fun. Herring gulls, though. I mean, this is one species of gull, and maybe what we need to do is a comparative study of the Western California and herring gulls that all frequent the San Francisco Bay Area and other parts of California to do a similar study. Inland country gulls versus coastal city gulls.
Right. See, that would be a study.
Right? Let's go to different locales and do this and see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any herring for the gulls, though. Sorry. What I do have is a study about bad references because they were large language model generated. Woohoo! Isn't that fantastic?
The reference was?
Yes. Yeah. So we've talked about the work that's been done over the last couple of years, and the work is increasing. The amount of researchers studying the veracity and the impact of these algorithms, these probabilistic database algorithms, on the work that we do. We're going to see more and more of it as we move forward. And I think it's important because we need to know what we're dealing with. And right now, all of these models are, for good or for bad, they're black boxes, right? There's stuff goes in and then slop comes out. And then they eat their slop and it's like sloppity slop.
Yes.
And so it's like eventually you're just sewer slopping. And that is the internet of the future. And do we want this to happen to science? No. Yet researchers are using LLMs and other chat models like GPT-4, Alpha, whatever, Chat GPT-4 and after, to not only give them lists of references, but also to fabricate complete articles that are then submitted for publication. And so we have seen the number of these falsified articles being reported in the literature. We have seen stories about the fabrication and inaccuracy of the bibliographies, of the references that, hey, they just made the chat whatever model made up what it wanted to fit the situation. And so these researchers, for this particular study that has been published in JMIR Publications, Mental Health, they looked at, title of the study, Influence of Topic Familiarity and Prompt Specificity on Citation Fabrication in Mental Health Research Using Large Language Models. So they're using GPT-4 Omni outputs and wanted to examine the frequency and nature of citation fabrication and bibliographic errors in the outputs when generating not just bibliographies, but literature reviews on mental health topics. They were testing whether prompt specificity influenced fabrication or accuracy rates. And so they prompted GPT-4 Omni to generate 6 literature reviews, each of them about 2,000 words, more than equal to or more than 20 citations each, on 3 different disorders that represented different levels of public awareness and research coverage. Because what they're trying to get at is, if somebody does a study or a literature review and it gets picked up by the media, usually it's going to be the topic of greater interest to the public that's going to get picked up. And so they were kind of like, okay, what are the things that are in the databases, in the models to begin with, and how does that influence accuracy and fabrication? They were researching the papers related to major depressive disorder, binge eating disorder, and body dysmorphic disorder. And so they wanted also for each of those 2 levels of specificity, general overview, and a specialized review for digital interventions or specialized treatment or something like that. So they looked at all the citations for these 6 reviews that were fabricated. These are not, written by a person. They were written by GPT Omni. And across all of them, and they looked at the reviews, verified them across reference databases, basically, and then to classify whether or not they were fabricated, real with errors, or fully accurate. And they also compared that to disorder and review type. So it's a really interesting comparison of all these aspects. Anyway, they found across the 6 reviews, 176 citations were included. 35, or 19.9, 20% were fabricated. Among the real citations, 45.4%, 64 of them, contained errors, most frequently incorrect or invalid digital object identifiers. So like the link, the DOI, certain tags that validate the studies or the citations that are being cited, so that somewhere along the way, the model is wiping the digital object identifiers that are necessary for real confirmation and the validation chain. Fabrication rates also differed by disorder. So binge eating and body dysmorphic disorder had higher rates of falsification or fabrication than major depressive disorder. And there were also higher fabrication rates for specialized versus general reviews of binge eating disorder. Accuracy rates also varied by disorder. Lowest for body dysmorphic, highest for major depressive disorder. So there was the highest accuracy for major depressive disorder. So basically their conclusion is that it's not accurate enough. And that if you're creating a system where the data is going back into the system, and you're also giving information to the public, issues about mental health that are going to influence psychiatric care, treatment, or the way that people live their lives because they've gotten health information from the internet, from whatever.
Or the way the government makes decisions, or absolutely. So I could be wrong, but I have the vibe, I have the feeling that the LLMs weren't this bad a couple of years ago. I feel like you could.
They didn't have as much data either. They hadn't.
No, they
hadn't eaten as much of their own slop.
Right. So one thing, they hadn't fed themselves garbage, but also I felt like they were less likely to fabricate, and they were just more likely to not completely respond or do a partial response, or to say I can't find that, or something like that.
Those were also earlier versions, right?
Yeah. So along the way,
right? Yeah.
They've lost their way. There was some point that these people building these models should have made sure that the emphasis was on being correct and leaving gaps when they didn't have information versus fabricating information. And somewhere along the way, the pressure was put on, or the emphasis, I guess, was on a complete answer versus a correct answer. And I feel like it's that whole thing that years ago I brought up. I saw this guy on some Wirecutter video or TEDx or something, or Ask an Expert, I don't remember what it was, talk about how he was an expert in large language models, and his theory was that the current iteration of quote-unquote AI was going to collapse. And so I think this was what he was getting at, was that it's not good enough, and so it's going to continue feeding itself the same errors, and the errors will get larger and larger and larger until the entire system collapses. The question is, what will collapse with it? Are we going to be unable to parse out real from AI generated items? Are we going to be unable to parse out AI generated articles from real articles? Are we going to be unable to parse out AI generated fiction from human generated fiction, right? How are we going to be able to scrape back to where we were if this version of AI language models, if they collapse? Yeah.
And secondarily to this, there is an entire study out this week related to a survey of novelists, fiction writers. 50% of modern novelists this is based on their survey, of course, are convinced that AI, these LLMs, are going to replace them. So your comment about, human generated or AI generated fiction, or even nonfiction, how are we going to know? This last week has created an entire controversy around artificially generated music.
Right.
Spotify has several artists, quote unquote, that have had successful songs according to the metrics that Spotify uses for success.
Which is partially Spotify forcing those same songs on people.
It's
over
like
and over.
they shoved them into playlists and they didn't have to. So why, because they don't have to pay the AI artist.
Right.
That's why they're doing it.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah. Hi, capitalism. What's going on?
Why isn't my AI answering annoying emails, doing my taxes, like doing the things I don't want to do? Why is it taking away my art? I want to do art.
Right? This is the point. And so I feel like there is an interesting split that's going to happen. People are talking about authenticity and how in music, digital is not, it has been a way for artists to find new audiences, but what's going to happen is that the real world, concerts, real experiences are going to be the things that matter to people because they're the experiences that can be shared with others. And where artificially generated music or art can fill in it can fill in the hold music. It can fill in your background on your computer if you don't care about that stuff. Like there are places that it's a gap filler, but when it comes to human interaction and the reason that we interact with art and music and these things, it is about the humanity. It's not about, and of course there are going to be people in weird clothes being awkward with each other at art galleries talking about their generated art, and it's going to be full of art talk, and they're going to make money. They're going to, Bitcoin will change hands, whatever. They'll feel fancy. The rest of us, we're going to go to a club. We're going to invite somebody over to our house for a piano recital. We're going to enjoy art together. We're going to make art together.
There's a reason you go to see a band live, even though some bands sound better live. Okay. Yeah. That is true. But some bands do sound better in the studio. But you still pay to go see them live. Agreed. Why is that? Because it's part of the experience. The people.
The people. It's the other fans. It's being a part of all of that. And having a real life experience that is different from every single day when all you do is just listen to that song in your commute that's so droning and over again. And you really, it numbs. Right? It's different. It's novelty. It's important to your brain.
You know what I was thinking about actually recently that's related to this is the radio. So I recently have started to think, I really miss listening to the radio. Why is that? It's you have Spotify, you have your AI DJ, you have their automatically created playlists, you have all this stuff. It's shoving new music at me, sure. But there was something about a human spinning discs or shoving tapes into holes or whatever it was they were doing, clicking play on their laptop, I don't care. But that they were I feel like playing this after this. That was just a human element that is completely unreplicable. Yeah,
human curation.
So yeah. So and even then not even just the humans physically playing the music, it's the humans picking the music to play on your morning commute. That is a weird piece of variability that's lost.
It's not lost. You can find it on your public radio stations to this day.
I must tell you, there's not as many.
There are not as many anymore. It's so sad because universities have gotten rid of them because of profit and other, it's public radio stations. NPR is, not a music station necessarily, but the NPR stations CPB, corporate, like all of the public funding for this kind of exposure to different viewpoints. Yeah, it's amazing that after so many years of going, oh, they're not going to take it away. Nobody can take that away. It's like they did take it away. Oh my gosh. College radio stations. UC Davis has one of the most amazing university radio stations, and is continuing to fight the good fight for college radio, even against all of it, the odds that it has been up against over the years. They've got a new home they're moving into. It's like it's above ground. It's got windows.
Whoa.
That's going to be so weird.
I'm so glad I got to go there once. It was really cool. Oh,
right?
Man.
So amazing. But these are the things, the learning about music, art, what were the inspirations behind where artists historically have come up with their new perspectives that help to push viewpoints forward. Science is in the same place as art in the sense that it pushes against what we're comfortable with, right? Like it pushes against all that we are accepting of right now. And so science, art, music, these are all things that speak truth to power. And by automating them and taking the humanity out of them, it removes humans from the equation and also allows humans to be more easily controlled. That's my conspiracy theory. And since the pandemic, in which we learned how necessary connection is, and people also learned how much they can really get on the internet, it has been this weird push-pull. And I think that's also why the AI push is starting so quickly right now. Like it has to happen now because it was a point of chaos that put society into a tailspin where society wants predictability and it wants things to be a certain way, but it's going to create a division or a schism in society where there are the ultimately online people and there are the people who need validated humans. I don't know. I have ideas about this.
Yeah.
No, never thought about it in my life.
Yikes. Yeah, I think that's a whole nother show. We need to talk more about this.
Sorry, it's like 9:20. We got to talk about more things.
Yeah.
Hey, Buran, thank you for randomly coming across the channel. Thanks for joining. Thanks for everyone being here. Yeah, let's get, we are part of a self-learning coding loop, if you think about it, but we can modify and we can change course. And it's, we can change course. And I think that is a mantra that we all need to have. No, it wasn't called Pirate Radio. The Christian Slater movie, Fada, that wasn't called Pirate Radio. That was one of my favorite movies ever. It was not called Pirate Radio. So Heathers came out, and then what was the movie? Who's going to get it first? Pump Up the Volume. That's what it was.
Never heard of it.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay.
All
Second assignment, Blair.
Okay.
Pump Up the Volume. This is a movie about teenage, like, renegade radio people, and it's incredible. Like, it has to do with, like, control of the airwaves. And this is before cell phones. This is, it's a, I think this is like this is one of the movies that really helped me develop my punk ethos, even though it wasn't really punk because it was kind of status quo at the time, but whatever. Sure. Yeah, whatever.
The cover is very 90s. All right, it's going on the list. Tell me about bin chickens.
You want bin chicken now?
Yeah.
Okay. So last week I was on Blue Sky and I was like, what's in my science feed? And I'm scrolling down the list and I found the announcement of a paper, Bin Chicken, Targeted Metagenomic Co-Assembly for the Efficient Recovery of Novel Genomes. And I went, okay. So what they're doing is they have a new methodology for if you get like a sample from a mud pond, of being able to look it up against reference genomes and then be able to go bloop, 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 put things together and highly accurately be able to identify organisms, be able to identify novel organisms. Bin chicken, the issue is low abundance microorganisms are often missed due to insufficient genomic coverage. So the bin chicken is an algorithm that substantially improves genome recovery through automated, targeted selection of metagenomes for co-assembly based on shared marker sequences derived from raw reads. Basically, they take these reads of the genome sequence, look at shared sequences, look at divergence from known reference genomes, and then with the algorithm prioritize and recover new genomes. This is cool because new genomes means new organisms. They applied bin chicken to public metagenomes, co-assembled 800 sample groups, and got 77,562 microbial genomes. The first genomic representatives of 6 phyla, 41 classes, and 24,028 species. So these are brand new microbial species added to the tree of life. Great. This is new technology. There are groups all over who are doing this kind of work to develop these algorithms and these ways of identifying what we can't see, right? Based on the base pairs, the amino acids that are present in a sample. And I love the algorithms because they're like, oh, this is what we have and what we've measured, but there's this other stuff in there. And so I was like, oh, interesting. Why is it called bin chicken?
That was my question.
And this is where the story veers because I started looking up, and apparently in Australia,
yes,
the white ibis or the Australian white ibis is like a pigeon, is like a seagull gull. It is called a bin chicken. It's also called a tip turkey. There are multiple names for the bin chicken.
So do you
Australia.
know why I know what a bin chicken is?
Sandwich snackers and picnic pirates. That's all. Yes.
Picnic pirates. I know because this is really embarrassing actually, because of Bluey. There are bin chickens on Bluey.
Yes. So Bluey's Australian, right?
Yes.
And so with a child, you obviously would.
Yes. I'm not watching it on my own. I will tell you that.
There are some kids shows that I discovered with Kai that I was like, I actually would watch this on my own.
I might. I don't think I'd start on my own, and I don't think I'd admit to it. But it is good. I enjoy watching it, but it's because I have a child.
So I went on a bit of a rabbit hole, and I think this is the interesting aspect of the cultural perspective, where now we have a metagenome algorithm that's called bin chicken that may help us discover new species from the garbage. From like the trash bin of genomic history. And these bin chickens, these Australian white ibises, they've become known for being very well adapted to garbage bins. So there were 3 species of ibis in Australia, and the white ibis has since evolved or adapted to urban environments. And this is the urban animal story that I was kind of thinking about, is these ibises with their long bills have become refined in to take advantage of different resources like garbage bins. So the bin chicken is able to live in the cities of Australia and take advantage of the urban garbage issue and eat from their garbage bags because their bills are so wonderful at piercing plastic bags and then digging deep into them where no other animal is capable.
There's another piece too, which is they're bald.
Yeah, so they're like
Which is
vultures, right?
exactly. So it
Yes.
helps them they could stick their whole head into the garbage
They're
and get
scavengers.
covered in a bunch of muck, and they won't mess up any feathers. It won't impact their ability to thermoregulate. It won't impact any. They're good. They're fine.
So the bin chicken has a wonderful sound. That it blends in with city traffic very well. They don't
Yeah.
act like raccoons. They're not cute like that, but they
What?
will knock you over.
So, all right, we gotta have a conversation real quick. You think raccoons in the garbage are cute?
They are evolving, and there is
I saw that. Yes, there's their
Research
nose
out.
getting.
They're getting cuter faces
They're getting the puppy face. I know.
because we give them the food when they're cuter, right?
Is that who's doing that? Stop doing that. Stop feeding the wildlife. Okay? But also, my experience with raccoons is that they're actually extremely dangerous because
yeah.
people do feed them.
Have you
and they
heard them
do
in the
get
night?
used to being around people.
They sound like cats.
So I used to run across raccoons on my way walking from my parents' house to the zoo when I worked there.
In the
And
fog, in the morning.
in the fog, in the dark, in the winter, I would come across raccoons. They'd be standing in the way at a trash can, and I would have to cross the street. They would not move. In fact, they'd get up on their hind legs and start chittering and screeching at me. And it's like, okay,
Yeah. Okay.
you may have the street, raccoons. I do not consider raccoons cute. Oh my goodness.
Well, one of the things that is wonderful, though, is that the Australian white ibis has inspired art. It has inspired a love of the bin chicken in Australia, where people are using the bin chicken as a representative to address human flaws when it comes to garbage, climate change, other ecological issues. It's also the inspiration for videos, movies, song. And there is a song about birds, which I cannot play here for reasons of copyright. But if you look for a song about birds, this is a wonderful song. Van Vuren Brothers, Vanvuren Bros. And it is a wonderful song. And it's all about birds. It's a song about birds. And I would play it if I could, because it made me happy to listen to it. And I want you all to be happy like I am. Blair's going to be happy now.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Anyway, but this is, I think, this cultural aspect of the Australian white ibis and the adoption of this species adapting to urban life is like it's a wonderful example of humanity rolling with it and like not just accepting it, but also going, yeah, we're going to run with it. And so Australia has taken the bin chicken to amazing heights. And now we're talking about it here on TWIS. Hi, Kevin. Yeah. Anyway, bin chickens. That's what we got here. Everyone, this is This Week in Science. We are not bin chickens. We are enjoying talking about things for a wonderfully long time tonight, and I hope that you are enjoying it as well. We will put all these links to various images and stories on our website, twist.org. You too could get a cool blow up shaped like a bin chicken if that is something that you are interested in. It's something that might be available in the world. Not through TWIS, but anyway. Blair, did you want to talk about woodpecker grunts?
Why don't we just enter the animal corner at this juncture?
I was thinking that it was about time for that. So please help TWIS in this time of giving and thanks. TWIS is listener supported, and it's listeners like you that help us do what we do. Blair maybe needs a new computer again. It's been a while. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's time to get
small with a backdrop and some headphones.
Yeah, she needs a backdrop, some headphones, and a computer where her microphone works all the time. These are things that we're looking for. But your donations, your support helps. And so at twist.org, you can click on the donate through PayPal link. You can donate through Patreon in an ongoing fashion. You can also find wonderful TWIS goodies at our Zazzle store for your Christmas gifts. So we can't do this without you. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you for so much. And now it's time to come back for that time in the show that we love to call, that we do call, Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, milliped, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Well, I'll start with those woodpeckers. Woodpeckers, they peck.
Really? Thanks.
Oh no, I was looking back through because I remembered reporting on woodpeckers. It felt like recently, but then I looked it up and it was like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something. Anyway, woodpeckers, they have this kind of traumatic way that they peck trees, where the amount of force that they are putting behind these pecks, there's been a lot of studies actually looking at, like, are they getting brain damage? How are they not getting brain damage? Is their head like a helmet? No, that's not it. Do they have like extra muscles or calcification in their neck? No, that's not it. Oh, so for the most part, what's been figured out is that they just kind of tense their whole body. So they're on a pivot kind of point, so that they're just putting their whole body into the concussion with the tree, so that their whole kind of body tenses up. They like flex all of their muscles at once and just bam and follow through, right? And so recent study, so silly, found that woodpeckers grunt and use their muscles in the same way that athletes do when they exert themselves.
Oh my gosh.
So they caught 8 wild downy woodpeckers. They filmed the birds with high-speed video over 3 days. They recorded how they drilled and tapped on a piece of hardwood. They measured electrical signals in their head, neck, abdomen, tail, and leg muscles to determine when those muscles contracted. And then they also recorded the air pressure in a section of airway, and the amount of the air that they exhaled through their voice boxes to track breathing before returning the birds to their homes in the wild. So then everybody got to go back home. Gotta love a study like that. They found that the hip flexor and the front neck muscles are essential to this process, which propels the bird forward as they drive their beak into the wood. So this kind of kind of backs up those previous studies that we were talking about, where they're just kind of tighten it all up, and
they're martial artists against trees.
Yes, that's correct.
Like
it's
all in the
remember
hip.
the 1-inch punch from Kill Bill? It's
Yes!
like that. Exactly. Yeah, okay. So anyway,
You exhale
yeah.
or grunt, and it's from the hips.
Yes, 100%. And so, gotta love that. That's the long and short of it. You know, they're just really good at what they do. They can fine tune the power of their impacts depending on what they're on. If it's a hard wood or a softer wood, they, if depending on if they're trying to make a hole versus whether they're trying to send an audio signal. And they also looked at the breathing patterns. They exhaled forcefully as if grunting when their beak struck the wood. So they really are these intense athletes that go through a very similar process as we do, or not me personally, but you know, I immediately thought of like shot putters, how they'll like groan when they throw the ball, stuff like that. So they're just really good. They're really, really athletic animals that are the reason that we haven't been able to replicate the helmet, the shock absorption, whatever it is that is special about them, is because they're basically just adapted head to toe to do this one thing.
Which is not surprising.
No,
Are
not
you
at all.
surprised?
No. So it's not any more complicated than that, and unfortunately it doesn't really look like there's anything that we can do with that information. So here we are.
But I mean, the other angle of it is that if we want to make use of this kind of thing, then we have to understand the full adaptation, right? That anything that is implemented needs to, it's not an add-on, right? It has to be.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like a race car driver knowing when to tense, when to relax, when to breathe, and how the car and the seat and everything are all fitted around the driver, right?
So I would say you're not going to make a better football helmet with this, but you might be able to make a better robot that drills holes.
Hopefully it's just drilling holes.
Yeah, that would
Construction site, and
Yeah.
I know, that's fascinating. I love the way that they broke it down and were able to look at all of the details to be able to, you know, confirm the story, because forever I've been like, well, are they just getting brain damage their whole life?
That was the last time we talked about it. That's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah,
just
last, because they have a tendon that goes in a muscle like around the back of the neck, and it's like attached to the front of the brain, or the front, like it's like the front of the skull, and you know.
Yep. Yeah.
But there was no padding. There's nothing that you would expect otherwise.
Nope, no shock absorption, none of that.
So the question is, if you're in a car accident, do you relax like a rag doll, or do you tense?
You probably still are supposed to relax.
Yeah.
This is not something
Just
that I'm
exhale.
an expert in, but you are not a woodpecker. You are not finely attuned to trauma while tensed.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
that's, okay. Moving on. The classic question, is it tool use? I feel like I need a one of those like jingles. Is it tool use or is it not? Are animals smart? Of course they are.
Of course they are. Well, duh. So I was waiting for you to bring this study.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, wolves like to go crabbing. Who doesn't? So wolves have never been observed using tools. Here we go. Here's another one of those absolutes. Only cis deal in absolutes, right?
Yeah.
There was recently in British Columbia some wolves that were captured on camera taking crab traps. It's basically just netting and bait connected to long ropes and buoys, and they ran up and grabbed the buoy and pulled the crab trap out of the water and had a nice crab meal. They did the entire thing in only 3 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And so this one very particular set of wolves learned that the indigenous people there put out crab traps. They knew when it was clear to go get the crab traps and to go have their nice crab bake. So, this study is asking the question, is this tool use? Now, what do you think, Kiki? Is it tool use?
It is using humans as tools.
Aha! You're getting to it. Okay. So I would argue, no, this is not tool use. They didn't set up the trap. They're not doing anything with the trap. They're going to a buffet. That's all they're doing. They know how to access the buffet. They learned how to access the buffet. That's like if you said like digging up worms is using your nails as a tool, right? No, the worms are there. The question is like, are you using a foreign object that you have fashioned, or you're using in a way to access something, right?
So
Yes.
the analogy I was thinking on this one is squirrels using vending machines in New York City.
Okay.
They're designed by humans. They've got a treat in them. Squirrels have watched people forever access the treats. Now squirrels can get inside of them and get the treats. And be
Right.
happy, right?
They figured out how to access the buffet.
Is that tool use?
No.
No. No.
But I think you bring
That
an
is
interesting
really
point,
smart.
Kiki. If the wolves could manipulate the humans to put out the crab traps when they were hungry, then the humans would be the tool. But the fact that the humans are doing what the wolves want when the wolves want it mean the wolves are just responding to circumstances in their vicinity. So the study authors wrote, tool use is typically understood as using an external object to achieve a specific goal with intent. A definition argued to include even stick chewing by dogs, which is, I think, a stretch. However, other definitions exclude rope pulling as a form of tool use because they are not responsible for the proper and effective orientation of the tool to the incentive.
I mean, pulling a rope, it's one way or the other, isn't it? Like, haven't we said that crows or ravens pulling strings or ropes
is a proof of intelligence and logical thinking, but is not tool use. So that's cause and effect.
So the pulling of the rope to get to the trap at the end of this, it's a puzzle. They're solved a puzzle.
Right. They're solving a puzzle. They're not using a tool. Those are different things. They are both measures of intelligence, for sure.
It's like the British tits. It's like squirrels. It's like, yeah, they're smart.
For this to qualify as tool use, they say that, quote, the animal must produce, not simply recognize the proper and effective orientation between tool and incentive. So that's the other piece, is that, like, if they push the crab trap into the water, caught a crab, and then pulled it out, that would be tool use.
Did they go fishing? Did they take the crabs and then put it back?
They also don't know if it's just one wolf or several wolves. They had a second video almost a year later where a wolf was seen pulling up a partially submerged crab trap, but not pulling in the buoy. So it could be the same wolf again. It could be a different wolf. And so essentially, I only bring this to say, like, this conversation is still going. It's still relevant in the zoological community to discuss what is and is not tool use. I feel like it's there's a part of me that wants to just very, kind of dismissively say, who cares? Who cares what a tool is? Well, because, okay, so let me go back to, like, to my age-old thing of, like, we want to categorize everything, when in reality, it's a spectrum. There's gradations along the whole spectrum. This is not zero tool use, but it's not 100% tool use. They are using an external object to achieve a goal, but really all they're doing is pulling crabs out of the water. So, and Fada's saying that if they used a mechanism or a latch to get the crab trap, that would be tool use. I would argue it is not if they are using it the way that it was intended to be used by the human, because, like, so if you think about a dog using a puzzle to eat a treat, that is not necessarily tool use,
No.
That is, again, a puzzle. That's solving a puzzle. But that is not tool use. So it's really just like another way to measure if an animal is smart. Wolves are very smart. But
they're
also,
incredibly, and they're socially smart. But I love this last video in the paper because there's a raven that's hanging out as well. Like
there's
waiting.
a tool user.
Yeah. So
Well,
I'm like, here's the wolf that we're debating, and then we've got the raven who's hanging out going, you get the crab? What's going on? But neither of these animals is going to take that trap and put it back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the puzzle involves natural elements that will put the puzzle back together again for them, humans. And they've seen humans reset the puzzle over and over again, so they don't have to. Because they know that inevitably every day someone will come to check the trap. If it's empty, they'll put it back. They'll try, yeah. And it's intelligence. And if they can adapt to any like difficulties that the humans put in their, barriers the humans put in their way, it's intelligent puzzle solving, but that is not taking branches, I don't know, or a beaver den or, whatever, and then creating a trap themselves.
Yeah. And so I think that, it's also important to remember I'm not trying to say that wolves don't use tools. We don't know that, right? That it's just this particular situation is not tool use, but they could be using a tool out in the forest and we would have no idea. We haven't observed it yet. But also there's this human-centric categorization of tool use that ultimately requires dexterity that
doesn't
a lot
work.
of animals don't have, right?
Yeah.
So like, the wolf doesn't have thumbs. A crow has very dexterous feet and a beak. So there's ability to do things there, right? But but dog jaws don't have that, right? But then I will also bring out one of my favorite instances that the scientific community did not call tool use, but I consider tool use, was a teeny tiny bat using a blade of grass that was curled to amplify their calls. I would call that tool use.
It's like a megaphone for bats.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes. Yes. So, okay. So Lon is asking an interesting question.
Yeah. Next point.
Yes.
Yeah.
If a human child uses a spoon to scoop cereal, is that tool use? If the spoon was already in the bowl, is that just puzzle solving? So this is part of that like shades of gray thing, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if
where do you draw the line?
You gave them a spoon and a fork and a knife and some chopsticks, and they chose the spoon for the cereal, is that then tool use? Because they chose the appropriate tool for the task.
However, these things are so interesting because people have different ways of using the same tool for different tasks. And I will use a spoon to eat like a soupy gnocchi, like instead of a fork just to eat the pasta, I want the spoon to get that gnocchi pasta and the sauce and everything, right? And I put it not on a plate, but in a little bowl plate. Right. So it doesn't spill,
So this is also an important reminder that colloquially how we use words are not necessarily how they are used in the scientific community also, right? Yeah. So like the way that you and I use that spoon to eat cereal, we would call that a tool in how just English language works. But you would use that term in a zoological context, that's not tool use.
So yeah, but I think getting back to like the idea of knowing that there's this understanding, having the intelligence to understand there's a system where things work a certain way and that somebody will fix it and that you can take advantage of it with your limited dexterity, say a toddler or a wolf. Your mom or human is going to come around and reset the situation at some point, right? You don't have to know how to use the spoon, right? So as a toddler, you're like, spoon, spoon. Ah, it's just a thing, right? It is solving a puzzle. Ah. But at a certain point, your intelligence realizes that this spoon can be used to scoop dirt. It can be used to throw things, that it can be used in a multitude of ways. And so if it is simply taking advantage of a spoon in a bowl of cereal that's there, it is potentially just problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Getting, problem, food into face faster. There is a tool there. You're taking advantage of it, but it is kind of like a squirrel or a wolf in this situation, right? But if you can take that spoon and do other things with it and use it innovatively, suddenly you're really using a tool.
Right. Well, and there's the whole piece of like, if I scooped the yogurt for you and handed you the spoon with yogurt in it, is that tool use? Not really.
No.
If you're spooning the yogurt from the bowl into your mouth, you're getting closer. So I think that's part of the whole like
tool
shades
use.
of gray piece is that
goal oriented.
Yes.
Knowing how to use objects in a goal oriented manner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tough. It's not a perfect definition. And that's also why I brought the story, because it is complicated. But I do agree with the researchers that this is not tool use, ultimately.
Okay. So they have said, ultimately, it is not tool use.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
I don't have to be upset.
I have one more story, which I'm shaking my dog treats at my dog, and she can't even reach me because she's in a pen. So hold on one second. Because she's barking.
Sadie, we love you.
Okay. Hopefully that made it into her pen. I threw it. I'll have to check on it later. Hopefully it's not just outside the pen taunting her. Okay. So, ants. Some of them are friendly and nice. They live in colonies. There's a queen. It's all good.
You only sound like this when it's going to get ugly.
Scientists document a new form of host manipulation where an invading parasitic ant queen tricks ant workers into killing their mother.
What?
The invading ant integrates herself into the nest by pretending to be a member of the colony and then sprays the host queen with fluid that causes her daughters to turn against her. The parasitic queen then usurps the throne, having the workers serve her instead as the new queen regent. This work... Yeah, so this works by pheromones, right? So they have to infiltrate first, and then via pheromones they convince the ants in the colony to
murder the queen.
Murder. Yeah.
You're not one of us. You don't smell like one of us.
This is a very particular form of matricide, and it's not very common in nature, matricide. It doesn't happen very often. That is killing your mother. And it often would appear maladaptive, meaning like, why would you do that? That's only hurting your chances at survival and passing on your genes. But in this case, it's very beneficial to the invading queen.
I'm going to say it stinks.
Yeah, but they're claiming that the offspring benefit from this matricide.
How? What?
Well, or specifically that it's not that they benefit, but they're not hurt by it.
Ooh,
there is no
like
profit.
homeopathy.
Like, yes, yeah. So it's basically like, yeah. So these are Lasius orientalis and Lasius umbratus, commonly referred to as bad smell ants in Japanese. Yeah, they show this infiltration model, and so that when the parasitic queen takes over, it doesn't really hurt any of the ants in the colony. They're fine, but now
genetically, like
now she's in charge. So that's
in
true,
charge.
actually. I would argue that it does hurt them.
It hurts the colony because the colony is an organism, right?
Right, because if you're looking at the ability for the original queen's genes to be passed on, which is why all of the worker ants are helping, is because they all share genes with the queen, so the queen's success equals their success. So I would argue you're right, that it does hurt them because it reduces their ability to pass on their genes through a functioning queen.
Yeah, it's a functioning queen, but it's not their match.
That's so interesting that they've taken this kind of angle on it, that it doesn't adversely impact the colony, but it does.
The colony continues, it keeps going, and there may be the opportunity for another queen who is more genetically matched. So, I mean, it's an interesting perspective, actually, because this is like this sub-level where, because we like to think of organisms as individuals from our human-centric perspective, it's hard to comprehend the idea of a colony. And so we look at colonies as groups of individuals, right, that have shared genetics, right? But it's almost like it is almost like the queen comes in as a mutation to change.
That's interesting.
The organism.
Yeah, but they're different species.
I know. That's why I'm saying it's like a mutation. Like it's an invasive mutation. But I think it's a leap of cognitive gymnastics, to be able to go, okay, this isn't like a city population, right? This is, it would be like me suddenly having, I don't know, a slightly different brain, which is weird. Or no, it wouldn't be my brain. It would be a different uterus. Or
yeah, I was gonna say
my ovaries are different suddenly. Good thing I'm not having more kids. No. But I think, the organism and everything is still working, right? So there's nothing wrong with the colony, the organism. But the ovary is changed, right? The thing that's in charge of the reproduction is different. And so it will be different from that point forward.
It almost feels more like the parasite that infects, like the parasitic wasp that injects eggs into the spider or whatever, and then it keeps going until it gets eaten from the inside out. Like it almost feels more like that, because you're promoting the reproductive success of a different species, and the colony continues living until it dies off, basically.
Yep.
Ugh.
So I'd say as a colony, I think damage is done.
Yeah.
Like that's it. The individuals are not hurt. Yeah. But the colony is going to be impacted. But then you think about the story where we had the weird genetic situation, right? Of the one species taking over, and there was the cloning and crazy stuff. It's ants again, right? So the way ants get along with each other is it's really interesting. Individuality and ants are not things that should go in the same sentence. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Don't listen to that ant propaganda from Kiki. She wants you to conform, ants. Rise up, be different.
Rise up for the ant queen. I'm the ant queen. I can't wait. I want to see Maggie Simpson being the ant queen. But moving on from ants, colony animals are so fascinating because of the way that they interact with each other and the biology of that. But from a neuroscience perspective, I'm always interested in how brains work and how, what if we were a colony of ants? How would our brains manage that? I don't think it's an easy answer or an easy story. So I've been looking at stories this week related to brains and how we look at them. One story this week was related to our memories and how we remember stuff. And unfortunately, with diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's disease, as the disease progresses, you can have new memories produced of things that just happened, but people forget their friends and family. So the loss of social memory is something that happens, and it's such a sad progression. As you know, if you've ever dealt with a family member who has Alzheimer's disease and they don't remember who you are, and then suddenly they do remember who you are, they think you're somebody else, and then they're back to who you were. It's a very confusing experience. And so this study that was just published out of the University of Virginia, these researchers have looked in mice, as we do so often, at specialized structures that support the junctions between neurons, the synapses in neurons. These structures, they call them perineuronal nets, and it's like the glial cells and the other stuff that kind of fills in the space and manages and holds these synapses together that talk to each other. These perineuronal nets, they create, it's like a matrix around neurons, and they regulate neuronal plasticity. They really protect the synapses. They make sure that the neurons that fire together wire together. They're important. And these researchers, looking at a model of Alzheimer's disease in mice, they had seen in previous research that there's an area of the hippocampus that's essential for social memory. This area of the hippocampus is called CA2. And so they focused on that. And what they found is that the perineuronal nets in CA2 deteriorate and degrade in an Alzheimer's-like situation in mice. They found when they gave what are called matrix metalloproteinase inhibitors, MMP inhibitors. These are also potential cancer drugs, which I think is really interesting. So it's like, what is going on here with these metalloproteinase inhibitors? They block the activity of enzymes, these metalloproteinases, that can dissolve perineuronal nets. And so they blocked them in the mice, and they found that their Alzheimer's disease model mice didn't have degradation of those perineuronal nets, and they also didn't lose the mouse social memory function that they should normally have. And the researchers say in this particular paper, or this report in Science Alert, in our research with mice, when we kept these brain structures safe early in life, so this is early in life, not later, the mice suffering from this disease were better at remembering their social interactions. So potentially when we're thinking about dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and going back to like the first story at the top of the show related to metabolomics and the idea of preventative medicine, if we can understand genetic predisposition to diseases like Alzheimer's disease, if we can understand environmental influences and how they interact, and then look at signals in our metabolome and other signals that can indicate whether we are likely to get Alzheimer's disease, potentially early in life, before those perineuronal nets are even, there's no worry about them. They're fine. Everything's fine. But maybe you can do things to protect them early, understanding all the factors that go into it. And so if your family has a history of Alzheimer's disease, maybe you never will have to worry about it because you understand those kinds of pathways. So anyway, I thought this was cool, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Save the structures that save our synapses.
Wow.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that this is able to make it out of the mouse research, that these metalloprotein inhibitors are able to be brought out. of this research and into, human level stuff, I think it would be really cool. Moving from that into the other future of things, when I was doing bird brain research, the idea that we could ever do anything without animal brains, it was like, it's great. I love everybody who is pushing for this. Yes. But please don't go and destroy labs where animals are, because that's not fair to the animals that are there, because they're going to get in the wild and they're going to die. It's going to be a big problem. Protest, do stuff. Get researchers to push for non-animal interventions. Let's do that. Yes. We're getting there finally. So research this week from the University of, Rhode Island? Is that where it is? Where am I thinking? Anyway, there's a new material that has been described in the Advanced Functional Materials Journal. It's a scaffold where donor brain cells can be grown. And they've basically created a system where you can scaffold a maze of architectural elements, interconnected pores, the matrix for cells to grow on, and that the engineered scaffold is stable. They've shown that in this work, using their process involves water, ethanol, and this polyethylene glycol, PEG, that flows through nested glass capillaries. They are able to use light in this as well to lock in the porous structure. The pores allow oxygen and nutrients to circulate through the structure, feed donated stem cells. The stem cells grow, organize, and communicate with each other in brain-like clusters. And so the structure mimics biology more closely, and they are suggesting that, not Rhode Island, UC Riverside, UCR, there we go. This UC Riverside team is suggesting that this is a really optimal material at this point in time to be able to grow brain tissue that can potentially be tested for all sorts of dysfunctions and whatever things neuroscientists want to look at. So, no animals, grow it on a scaffold, see what the cells do.
Great.
I know, very cool, right?
You're still probably going to need an animal model before you move into human testing, but this would allow you to get through a lot of preliminary testing, hone down to a really clear test subject, and also potentially have to just use less in number animal models, which is a huge impact.
And if you're also in this situation, taking human cells and putting them in this situation, it's not mouse cells, not in a mouse brain. You're using human cells in this structured, scaffolded matrix that is trying to synthetically reproduce nature, right? And so potentially you could create this system where you're actually seeing what works and what doesn't work in as close to real as possible. Still not real. So yeah, you still have to test things. We're not getting rid of it, but yeah, you're exactly right, Blair. And that's the big point. My final story, which is really just a question, and I think it's so important. Blair, did you ever, we're talking about movies, did you ever see the movie Gattaca?
No, but I know about it.
What do you know about it?
Designer babies.
Yeah, designer babies. You have to say it with Fry.
Yeah, it's just just genetically engineered humans. That's what it's about, right? It's the year 2025. Humans are genetically engineered. It's something like that, right? Like, I wonder what year it actually does take place in. I'm going to look it up.
I don't know what year. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it was something recent, actually. But the idea of Gattaca, I mean, it goes beyond the story, the world Gattaca takes place in goes beyond just the designer babies, which is what we're going to be talking about and where the question really lies. But it is a bigger world where we're off-world, where we have a colony on the moon, we're going to Mars, we have people having to survive space travel. So there are new challenges to our biology, right? And that part of the story isn't like leaned into as much, but the part of the story in Gattaca that is leaned into is the baby hacking for benefit, for primacy. That if you are, you've chosen your partner, your mate, and you've, chosen them because, of course, we are choosing our mates for the most optimal traits, right? That's just what we do because we are all analytical when it comes down to it. And so the mates that we are choosing are supposed to give us the most optimal offspring. Those optimal offspring are going to be the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the blah, 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 right? But of course, it doesn't work out that way all the time because of genetics and things hiding in there. So let's hack the baby genomes. I was watching or listening on a drive I took last night down to Eugene. I was listening to the Moonshots podcast with Peter Diamandis, and it's a sycophantic podcast about artificial intelligence. Like I listen to it and I have to have a cool down period afterwards because I'm so angry at the just fanboyness of this podcast. But I think it's important to listen to it to understand where a lot of the people in the tech industry are coming from right now. So every once in a while, suck it up and get angry. But they were talking about there's a story out through Wall Street Journal this last week, and it's been reported a bit over the last year or two. There are a few companies that are being funded, really funded, lots of money, Silicon Valley companies who are trying to look for ways to exist and to basically get around the rules that we have put in place for genetic modification of human offspring. To let you know, company number one is named Preventive. Preventive is funded, the main funder is the Coinbase CEO, Brian Armstrong, and the spouse of OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman. Preventive, there are many story arcs and narratives happening about Preventive. The official line of Preventive is that, no, they're just trying to, help with IVF and, make human reproduction better and safer and, help, stop disease, because why do we want disease to continue in the world? And, all the big, nice. But the underground stories that are popping out, which is like, how much do you trust? I don't know. I'm not going to say, but the Wall Street Journal, said that regardless of the moratorium on human embryo editing that has taken place since He Jiankui in China edited human babies to be HIV resistant and went to jail for it and was ostracized from the scientific community for what he did. But there has been a moratorium globally that the global research community, the governments have all come together and said, no, we're not doing this. Let's take a breath, everybody. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley, Preventive is not the only company, but it is kind of a leader in this space because of the money and the people behind that money. Preventive, apparently for the last 6 months, has been working with a family to create a child in the United, and this is questionable as to whether or not it's in the United States, working to create a child born from a hacked embryo. The idea is that this is a family who's been chosen because that's a hereditary disease and they're trying to remove the hereditary disease. And so you can look at this and say, well, that's great. Shouldn't we remove hereditary?
Sure.
You're not doing harm, right? And wouldn't it be great because this offspring will then not have hereditary disease, and so further future offspring will be healthy, not doing harm.
Okay, unless that child carries a genomic abnormality that then they can pass on to their child that is actually a problem.
That's a different abnormality, right?
Yes.
Yes. So this is such, I am fascinated by this study because all of a sudden where we have the research community who is working in genomic editing and modification has said, take a breath, let's stop. We need to talk about this. We need to figure out, and as humans need to figure out. Meanwhile, billionaires have decided they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are multiple companies that are being funded to do this. It's not just preventive.
This feels very full circle because we started the show talking about how there are rules about the moon, but ultimately it's not going to matter because billionaires are going to do whatever they want and who's going to stop them. And here we are again. How great. So, there's a Deep Space Nine plot, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine plot about this. The Doctor, Julian Bashir, is an illegal genetically modified human. And it's this whole thing.
They did all this in Star Trek. I know. The sentient artificial intelligence. They covered.
Well, and then, of course, it's a problem because, Julian didn't ask to be made. It's something his parents decided to do. But then he has to be punished as a human because he is the result of something that was not sanctioned. So that is not a successful way to go.
Right?
So he never consented to being genetically modified. His parents did it before he was born. It's just, yes. So...
And yet,
hey, Star Trek did it. Can you guys watch?
And yet, so many of these tech bros will be like, "I love Star Trek. It's one of my favorite shows. It taught me so much. What? How to break rules?
Yeah,
and how to get to dystopia. That wasn't what Star Trek was trying to do.
Well, it's just like the millionaires and the fascists that love Star Wars, and then you drill down to it, and they side with the Empire. You're like, got it.
Yeah. Watch Andor. Go back and watch early Star Trek. Let's just, can we just watch these things, everybody? These are historical documents.
There's morals. Morals to be concerned. But with Star Trek in particular, I think it's very interesting because they had very smart people in their writer's room that understood trends in science and technology. And so they were able to forecast some of these things. They weren't fortune tellers. They were making educated guesses based on the movement of science and technology. And so,
and they were reading other sci-fi authors at the time.
Sure.
And
yeah, absolutely. But Heinlein had people writing with a pencil and pen and paper, right? But Star Trek had iPads. Of course, they thought that there was limited capacity, and so you might have to carry 6 pads around with you full of data, but they had iPads, right? And they had something very similar to a tricorder that's things that we have walking around with us. And, our phone is basically a tricorder for a lot of things.
It's becoming more with sensors and different ways of applying it. Our phones are becoming more and more like that.
Take a picture of a plant and it can tell me what it is and if it's poisonous. There you go, right?
My dog just ate this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, there's a little bit of that there. So the genetics thing, I'm not surprised. The AI gone awry, like you said, that was something that's definitely been well trodden. But this is the exact conversation we're having now, is the morality besides genetically engineered children.
But what I'm wondering, so reading the Wall Street Journal article a week ago, I was fascinated by the way that, it's hey, Wall Street Journal, I was expecting them to do just whatever coverage of it. But the way that they covered it was not in a very positive light, which I was really interested to see. They were not
play both sides.
They weren't. It wasn't fanboying over it. It was very obviously not not enamored. And they brought up these companies and these young, and stated up front, like, this company that is doing this one, they are one of Peter Thiel's, like, there were a bunch of fellowships that he gave out for people to drop out of college to do a business or to just start something. And so there are these like genius grants that Peter Thiel gave out. And one of these reproductive companies, or actually two of the reproductive companies, are run by people who got genius grants from Peter Thiel, which is a whole thing in itself. And some of the quotes that they reported from these individuals, one of the individuals basically was talking about the Gattaca future as if it was a positive thing. That, of course, that is the best way to be. Not thinking about like the fabric of society, but really being okay with ripping it apart. That elites who could pay for this thing, that of course they're going to be able to be different. And it was just fascinating to me. But I'd love to hear from our listeners, our viewers, about how you think about these Silicon Valley funded companies who could be changing, just like AI, pushing forward change in the world of reproduction. But I think we've come to the end of the show. I think we've done it. It's totally a tight 90.
Oh, totally. And I think I actually hear somebody calling for me in the other room. So I'll get as far as I can here. There. But I might have to disappear in a minute. But let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for the show tonight. So glad that you could be here. Fada, thank you so much for your help with social media and show notes. Gord, Aaron Lore, others who help man the chat rooms, all of our chatters. Thank you for being here and chatting with us and being compassionate and respectful to each other. Rachel, thank you for editing the show. Identity Forward, thank you for recording the show. And also, of course, thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Aaron Anathema, Adam Mishkan, Alan Viola, Ali Coffin, Andrew Swanson, Arthur Kepler, Bob Calder, Bob Coles, Brendan Minish, Barney Carrington, Chris Wozniak, Chris Driver, Christopher Dreyer, Christopher Rappin, Craig Landon, Craig Potts, Dana Lewis, Daryl Meinshak, Dave Wilkinson, David E. Youngblood, Don Mundus, Jonathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, E.O., Eden Mundell, Eric Knapp, Flying Out, Fredis 104, Gene Burton, Lattimore, George Corris, Greg Briggs, Jack. Greg Briggs likes crabs. Jack, Jason Olds, John Atwood, John McKee, John Ratnaswamy, Johnny Gridley, Ken Hayes, Kent Northcote, Kevin Perchan, Kevin Reardon, Kurt Larson, Lon Makes, Lauren Gifford, Mary Gertz, Marjorie, Mark Hessenflow, Noodles, Patrick Pecoraro, Paul D. Disney, Paul Ronovich, Philip Shane, Pierre Velazar, PIG, Richard Badge, Robert Norland, Robert Farley, Rodney Lewis, Rudy Garcia, Remy Day, Sean Clarence Lamb, Shubrew, Stephen Alberon, Steve Leesman, a.k.a. Zima Zudoster, Teresa Smith, Tony Steele, Vagard Chefstad. Thank you. Thank you for all your support on Patreon. And for those of you who would like to support us on Patreon, head over to twist.org and click on that Patreon link and follow the leads. On next week's show,
we will be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, broadcasting from our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels.
Yes, we will. Want to listen to us as a podcast? Search for TWIS wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe too.
For more information on anything you heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website. That's at www.twist.org. You can also sign up for a newsletter.
And we love your feedback. If there's a topic that you'd like to send to us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, please let us know on one of our social media accounts. If we're there, you can just send us an email. And Blair, where do you think, like, people should put TWIS in the subject line so the email doesn't get spam filtered into where?
A parasitic ant nest.
Oh, yeah. Nope. Yep.
And I gotta go. Bye, everybody.
Right now? Not even to the end? You'd have one more line. She's out of here. Oh my gosh. One more line. That's all I wanted. We look forward to you. We look forward to discussing science with you again next week. And if you've learned anything from the show, remember, it's all in your head.
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.